I spend a lot of time jumping from project to project and technology to technology, and I often find myself saying, darn it, I just did this last week. How did I do that? How did I get that to work? Way more than I should. Let's mash on that. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Asp.Net Monsters. In today's episode, I'm going to take a little bit of a shift from our normal sorts of talks and talk about a little bit of workflow stuff that I have been trying to improve on in the last 2 months, 2.5 months. So this is exactly that problem that I was talking about, that I will do something in some technology, and because I'm not using it all the time, I quickly forget what the hell it is that I learned in it, or what little intricate thing there was. And I remember enough that it would be like, oh, I had this problem previously, but I can't remember what the solution is. And really, that's the important part that I need to have.
Now, when you and Dave were blogging more actively, usually what I would do is I would just Google it, and then I'd find one of your blog posts, and then that would be good enough. That was
right. And yeah, when we were a little bit better at blogging, that is something that we ended up doing. Like, more often than not, I'd be like, oh, I'll just Google this, and there would be my post, and I'd be like, oh, I wrote about this. Oh, way to go, past Simon. But past Simon has become lazier and lazier in the last few years and hasn't written as many blog posts. But what I am starting to do is to write notes about what it is that I'm doing. So there's a bunch of different note-taking software out there, and it's probably like whatever works for you. I tried a Spike a few years ago, writing notes in OneNote, and I got through like 2 months and it didn't really take. I know that Dave takes notes of what he does every single day, dating back like 30 years. So it's impressive. But I wanted something that was a little bit more than like what I did each day, and give you some hints about the way that I could improve or the things that I have done. So I looked at a couple of different technologies out there. I looked at this Roam Research really briefly. So I liked the idea of this because it was a bunch of documents, and although this is really more for like research, it allows you to link things together so that you can take a look at like the relationships between different documents. And there's a couple of things in this space too that work in a similar way. But this was like $15 a month, and it was vendor lock-in, and I was just like, I pay so much money on a monthly basis to all sorts of like little things, and I'm just like exhausted by all these little things that I pay for, like, $3 for email and $2 for this other thing, and like Netflix and Disney
subscription
Plus.
Fatigue, right?
Yeah, and it's just like death by a million paper cuts. And I was like, I don't need this. Surely there's a way that I can do this. Take good notes without spending $15 a month on something. And there was some other options out there, but all of them were like, you kind of have to pay a little bit of money, until I came across this little plugin for Visual Studio Code here. And I say little plugin, but it's actually a bunch of different plugins, like a meta plugin. Is that a thing that installs like a bunch of plugins? And this brings all of that note-taking goodness into Visual Studio Code, which is where I am like 8 hours a day anyway. So why don't I just put everything into Visual Studio Code? So that is what I've been doing over the last month or so. 2 months, and it's been working out great so far. So this is a really simple Markdown-based tool I have it installed over here, and I have my kind of note directories here. So I split it up, and I have a journal for every day that I've been doing this. So I guess I started this back, it's actually 2 months ago today. So that's cool.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, and so I take notes on a daily basis, and these are usually like just what am I doing for each client on that day. And then if I run into something that is interesting or something new that I have learned, I will take a deeper note about it. But these are really just targeted towards me. So I'm not going to do like a big explanation or a big background story on all of them, but just enough that I can write something down and get it out into my notes. And I have those divided up into home and work, but I mean, I only came up with one note so far for home. So everything ends up in work, and I just kind of have them laid out by the technology that I am using. And then if I drop into an individual one, I can say, click and see what's in this Git folder here. So this is the thing is about how to sign commits in Git, and all that sort of stuff. So how to set all of that up, and it's in Markdown, so it ends up being rendered really nicely here over on the side. And I can put in like pictures and all of that. So that's one of the things that I really like, is that I can just paste in a picture into this. So there's a special keyboard shortcut, and it will put a picture in a folder and put a link into it.
Oh my gosh, that's something that we talked about creating a plugin for, like, feels like a decade ago.
Yes, so fortunately somebody has done it now, and it works great.
It was something that it did live in like Markdown Monster and other tools like that, but it wasn't directly something in. So I was actually going in and out of, like it was in and out of my workflow. I'd be opening up my blog over and something like that and pasting it over there. So it would, that one's actually nice because it could actually save it up to Azure Blobs.
Right.
So it's good for blogging, but this is going to be locally on disk, obviously.
Right. So yeah, so I have an image on my clipboard, and I said Control-Alt-V, and it gives me like, hey, what do you want to name it as? And I just leave it as default always, and then if I hit enter, it'll put it in there for me. So that was kind of where I got to. And then I got to thinking, hey, all of these things in here, like some of these are like client-specific things or private things that I don't necessarily want people knowing about. But a lot of the stuff that I'm doing in here, like these could be legitimate blog posts. They're not as good quality as what I would normally put out in a blog post. Not to pretend that my blog posts are normally high quality. But then I started thinking, like, maybe I could convert the stuff that's in here and put it out on my blog. So I spent some time this weekend hacking on a way to do that, just using GitHub Actions. And after a few false starts, I finally got to something I was happy with. So now what I have is I can just put in another tag here, mode public. And if I'm satisfied that something that I'm doing is redacted enough, or not revealing any information about clients and that sort of thing, that I can just kind of put this in here. So this one feels like it's fairly safe. And I can just hit save on this one and then publish this. Making post public. And this workflow is really nice because I just so just the act of checking in, this one automatically does a push and a pull. So it's automatically going to go and push that out for me, which is really nice because I work on a couple of different machines. So as long as I remember to check it in before I leave that machine, locally, it'll push it up to GitHub for me to a private repo and do whatever its thing is. So behind the scenes now, this is going to go and check out my repository up in a GitHub action, run through a little bit of annoying processing that took me forever to get right, and then this is going to publish it out to my blog. So if I go over to my blog, I put up a post here about taking notes. So this whole talk is basically this post, and then like this is an automatic blog post that went out as a result of me just marking something as public. And then this is another one down here. So I managed to get it to do the images and all that stuff. So I'm hoping the result of this is that I'm going to start blogging a lot more, but it's not going to be painful for me because it's going to be just automatically updating stuff that I have already written. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you come back here in a few minutes' time, this should be up to date with a new blog post.
Well, probably by the time this is processed and published, it'll be.
it better be.
That is really cool.
I know it's a little bit of a divergent stretch here, but are you able to show the code that you used for, like, did you push the images up to a blob storage, or what are you doing with the images?
No, so my blog is still hosted because I haven't got around to changing it yet. It's just still hosted on an Azure App Service.
Okay.
So the after deploying it basically just packages it up in a package and ships it out. So I haven't done all of the other stuff necessary yet to move that over to static hosting. So it's costing me dollars and dollars a month that I'm just wasting, but it's fortunately falls underneath some sponsorship stuff on Azure, so it didn't actually cost me anything. So I should do that, but it should be basically the same workflow. Like the workflow inside of Git here is the same, and then on the blog itself, if I go over to the blog, I think it's creatively at blog. Then just 2 minutes ago, this thing was run, and it's
looks like it's public already.
Oh, is it? Or did it already make it out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Nice.
So there we go.
Magic.
Bada bing, bada boom. And then one I wasn't sure about. Oh, good. It took me forever to make it like not update dates on previous posts. So I'm glad that worked. I couldn't really test it without changing the concept of time itself. All right.
So
well,
this, I was just gonna say this is better. Like I have a terrible antiquated format for note taking. I have a to-do.txt in pretty much the root of every project that I work in. And so if I am lost on finding, how do I get automatic certificate generation for using what's the free SSL certs?
Let's Encrypt.
Yeah, Let's Encrypt. How do I get Let's Encrypt working automatically in app services again? I think it has something to do with web jobs or whatever. I have to remember which project it was that I did that on, and then hopefully that's the latest one that it was working on, because that, those plugins change and whatnot. So what's your mechanism? I guess you just use search right inside Visual Studio Code then.
Yeah, so unfortunately I don't have anything about that. I have some notes in my journal related to an SSL certificate.
Right.
But I don't think I have anything else other than that. But if I wanted to search for something like, this one over here, big table, I can search for it like that, or I can, over here, there is a bunch of different things here. A tag explorer, so I tag all of these, and then this will pull out all the tags for me. So like if I was interested in what have I written about Golang, then I can go take a look at this thing here.
Sure. And I actually thought that was going to be one of your Achilles heels with this format, because you're using folders for the topics, but then you've got multiple tags inside, and this lets you explore those tags.
Yeah, so I don't know that I do a great job on these tags, but it does work. I do try and put in like a couple of different tags for each thing. So like this one is probably in the PowerShell directory, yeah, but it's related to modules.
Right. So it's under modules and PowerShell.
Yeah, that's right.
Beauty. That's good stuff.
And there's a lot of other stuff in here too that I don't make good use of, like this whole backlinking stuff I don't really do. And there's a whole like
visualization. Show graph, is it?
What it is? Yeah, show graph. So you can see that I'm not good. A lot of my stuff is disconnected. But I do have some links between topics, but especially like those daily notes tend to be inherently disconnected from one another. And then we do see some stuff here. So like Monday, March 29th is related to peering for networks in something or other. I don't know if I can. Unfortunately, you can't click on it and zoom to it. Oh, you can. Here we go.
Cool.
So yeah, if I was doing like more research, then it's like this is their example one here that I apparently have not deleted yet. But it would give you an idea of relationships. So like here's one that's like 3 things that are related. So that day I wrote about 2 different things, but I don't have strong relationships yet between different subjects. And I think that will come as I start to build more, but this is probably more useful if you were doing actual like research on the topic. So if I had like a whole section on doing research on AI or something like that, then those would probably be connected a little bit more strongly. And doing those backlinks is really easy. So if I come into a file, I just do like this, and it'll give me a list of all the things I might want to link it to. Nice. I haven't quite figured out how that works yet, pushing it to blog, but because I have so few backlinks, I'm just ignoring the problem for now.
Good strategy.
Yep.
Cool.
Bold strategy, Cotton. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this episode where we learn how inefficient Simon is. And hopefully you'll come back and join us again on next week's episode where we'll probably talk about something a little bit more technology-ish than this. Bye.
Bye.